And then in a lot of songs, actually, not this one, but a lot of songs, you then don't need to EQ any high-end presence after this. It actually gets too thin, and I did kind of have to learn that the hard way. Let's do an off and on. You tell me that I need you for so damn long. You tell me that I need you for so damn long. This is where we take it into being rock song territory. We're getting the spitty, attacky sound of the vocal out. We're really bringing it forward and we're really making it aggressive. I'll start with it off and I'll bring it in. You tell me that I need you for so damn long. These vocals were recorded in a bedroom straight into an interface, and this video will show how they were mixed to sound like this. You tell me that I need you for so damn long. I need someone like me that you can control. Hopefully you heard there that bedroom recordings don't have to sound like demos. There are some interesting mix moves happening here which I want to share, mainly how I dealt with slightly inconsistent frequency balance in the vocals, which is a common issue when recording at home. So let's look at the chain real quick and then we'll go through everything in detail. Shep 73 preamp emulation, so we get it to sound more like it's been recorded in a top studio. And into the FG Stress, which is a distressor plugin, so compressing on the way in, even though technically we're not, but we're emulating that input chain that you would get from a studio. And then some dynamic EQ here with Pro Q3. Soothe 2 set to flat, because we're flattening out the frequency response here. And then into this LinMB linear phase multiband from Waves, which we've also set to help even out those frequencies. Into some EQ here using the SSL channel strip from Waves, an old plugin, but a great one. And we've got shelves, mid boosts, compression, filters all happening there. Into a de-esser, and then compressing in an aggressive way using the CLA 76 from Waves, or a Blue Stripe 1176 plugin. Another bit of soothe, but helping with de-essing here. Tape saturation using Saturn 2, and then limiting to really pin that in place. Let's go through each plugin in detail. So the Shep 73 from Waves here, the input is pushed ever so slightly to sort of help bring about that saturation that would happen from a hardware preamp. We've also got the high pass filter engaged here at 80, so I don't want to be saturating anything lower than that and creating harmonics that we then have to deal with later on. I mean, you can, but for me, this was problematic. And then the output here is just pushed to gain stage so that we hit the next plugin at the right signal level. And here, the FG Stress, the distressor emulation from Slate Digital. And this is actually a bit different from how I normally would do it. I've gone for 20-to-1 ratio here because compression is the name of the game with rock vocals like this that you want to push up front. You know, I've seen in comments of videos that I've done before from people that don't mix this kind of genre saying too much compression, too in your face, too loud. But that's what you want with this music. You want it loud and in your face. Go listen to any other of the pro mixes out there, the songs that you love. The compression is heavy, it's hard. The vocals are up front. You know, this isn't the kind of music for keeping it light. So slowed the attack down all the way to 9. So we're really letting those transients through the attack of the vocal. And then the release is sped up. We haven't gone too crazy on this because this is just on the way in, on the input. We're going to get a bit more heavy-handed as we go along. So let me show you how this sounds with just these two plugins with me emulating the input chain that you would get in a studio. So you can hear it's got a bit too much body in the way that it sounds a little bit muffled. It's not EQ'd properly, but the level of the vocal is there. There's a bit of energy there. It's compressed. It's sitting in a decent place as a good starting point. If we didn't have these, it would sound like this. And that sounds really raw. The vocals, disappearing in certain words. And that's why we want the compression so we can start from a decent point. Now, Pro Q3, still technically part of the way in, but this is what I wanted to talk about in terms of evening out a frequency response. When you're recording yourself, or when you're recording in an imperfect room, certain frequencies might jump out. You might not be so consistent with your mic technique. You might belt but be too close, or you might be too far away. And actually that affects later on down the line when you try to EQ things. You can't do what you want because it sounds great
for some of the vocal, but then every now and then there's a word making it sound harsh or thin or boxy and muddy. So that's why we do this. We're trying to get as even a response as we can, like someone else was there while you were recording to ensure that your take was consistent. Let's look at what we've got here. We've got a very wide mid-range. It's not a cut because we're not cutting anything. We're just using the dynamic bands here just to, duck it when there's build-up in that area. And then here around the sort of harsh sibilance area too. Let's take a listen to what we're actually doing here.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. That needs so control.
So two of the more unpleasant parts of that vocal there are covered by this EQ, but we're not cutting, we're not killing it. All we're doing is stopping it from building up in those areas. We're not trying to reduce those frequencies at all, just keep them in line with the others. Doesn't make a drastic change right now, but it will do later on. And then that paves the way for our flat use of Soothe 2 here. This is just a flat start preset. I mean, I've bumped up a little bit here because it was a little bit more muddy than I would have liked. And what this plugin does is, like a dynamic EQ, will react to certain frequencies and change them dynamically. So with these two plugins, hopefully you'll hear that there's less spikes and less frequencies jumping out in certain places. Still going to be because it's a human performance and you do want that to some extent, but we're trying to not have things distract us from the performance itself. So let's listen to them off and then on.
You tell me that I need you for so
Yeah, you can hear on that you can hear how important this just under 6K band is. You can hear that frequency really jump out at that point.
You tell me that I need you.
Yeah, on the word I. Let's bring these two in and have another listen.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long.
Yeah, it's really helping that. And if you hear just after that point, you have the word you, where the mids from the sort of like compression that's happening in the throat, those mids are really starting to take over, which is why this 500-600 band is so important too. Have another listen to the word you.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long.
Yeah, right at the end of that, you can hear it almost distorting too in the mid-range. So it's still going to distort a little bit in the mid-range, which is cool, which is a cool vibe. You don't want to kill that. But listen to how more controlled it is now.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long.
Yeah, bit by bit, we're making it way more even. And now for the next part, which is again, creating an even frequency band, but also adding some really nice polish that this plugin does so well. And that's the linear phase multiband from Waves, the Lin MB. And what I've done here, you may have seen it in other videos, I do this all the time. This blue area here is the range, and it's how much you're gonna compress effectively. You have a global control here, and if you look, I whack this down to full. So it starts off on the plugin about here, and I just take it, whack it all the way down. And then depending on how much you wanted this effect to happen, you don't actually need to pull the threshold down at all. See these colored bands here? You could just leave them all at the top, and it would still engage. I just find that there's a sweet spot that I like to bring it down a little bit. And then in a lot of songs, actually, not this one, but a lot of songs, you then don't need to EQ any high-end presence after this. It actually gets too thin, and I did kind of have to learn that the hard way. But actually, this can take care of a lot of your EQ for you. It reduces the mids more than anything, so it makes it sound bright. But that's a taste thing. That's up to you or the artist you mix for, etc. Okay, so put this back to where it was. Let's hear this Lin MB at work.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long.
That just sounds polished, and you see how that brightness is there. We haven't actually pushed any EQ yet, but where it controls those mids, it allows that brightness to be there. Let's do an off and on.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. You tell me that I need you for so damn long.
Yeah, really starting to sound like it wasn't recorded in a bedroom now. Just quickly, if you make music like this and you want me to mix your next release, then head over to my website, terrybeckleyrecording.com, send me a message via the contact form there, and I will get back to you. Okay, next we have some EQ and a bit of compression. We're doing what you would do with a channel strip on a SSL console effectively here. Everything we've just done, you could technically call the input chain. So this is where we actually start to mix, as if you'd recorded in a Pro Studio, you had hardware as part of your input chain recording on the way in. So this is where you actually start to get a sound you want and craft the sound. Without the EQ, just the input chain, with the whole mix in, this is what we have.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long.
You know, we are 70% of the way there by evening that out, using that Lin MB plugin, using the compression, bit of saturation. You know, it's not that far off, and hopefully you can hear that and you agree with me there. Let's bring the EQ and compression in. We are using a 4:1 ratio here. The threshold is brought back so that these lights, these amber lights, are sort of flittering between the 6 and 10. We don't want to go into the red here on this part of the plugin. And the release is just set pretty much how it comes in the plugin here. So we have an 8K shelf, just above 2 decibels, not too much because we've got all that happening from the Lin MB. This is where I add as much brightness as I want to hear. Some voices don't need it, some microphones don't need it, some artists and bands don't like it. So it can be a taste thing, but this is how you get your brightness to sound like your reference tracks and the pro records that you like listening to so much. Then we've got a bit of mid-range here, just under 2K. This is where you can really get some of that character and body out of the vocal too. And in fact, a lot of the time, before I started boosting vocals in this area, they would sound a little bit too thin and sometimes a little bit too harsh. I'd get the brightness right, but this sort of 1 to 2K area can be really important, especially if your vocalist is a little nasally or doesn't have a rich, thick sound already. And then we're also rolling off everything below 105 hertz, killing the rumble. You know, there's a lot happening down there. Unless it was a really sparse section, this is a chorus, so you don't really need much of that proper low end in the vocal. It's going to come through in your sort of 150, 200 up from there. Let's hear this EQ off and on, starting with it off.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. That need someone like me that you can't control. How do you make it look so easy?
Yeah, really coming forward now, really present, pretty bright. You know, it doesn't have to be that bright if you don't like it to be, but this is how you get the brightness you want. So I want to just zone in a bit more on this mid-range boost here, because this is a tricky one. I want to show you exactly what that's doing. So we'll put it into solo and I will set this to 0 and bring it back so you sort of get a good feel of what's happening.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. That need someone like me that you can't control. How do you?
It's subtle, but without it, the vocal's a little harsh or a little thin, right? It just brings a little bit of body into it. I'll push it a bit more so you can hear exactly what area of the vocals I'm pushing, but you don't necessarily want to hear that you've boosted this area. You just want to balance it with the top end.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. That need someone like me that you.
Yeah, see, you get that's that character, a bit of aggression there, but it's actually working as a way of balancing that super brightness, that air frequency that we have going on. Okay, into a de-esser. You know, we all have de-essers, we all know how they work. I find that I prefer to do 2 de-essers working gently than one working overly harsh. It's hard to set this right. When you open up this plugin, this RDesser, it's set way too hard. I always bring it way back. I mean, maybe it's the microphone I'm using. If you use an SM7B from Shure and you don't use an extra pop filter on top of it, you might have to set this a little harder. Okay, into some real attitude compression now. This is where we take it into being rock song territory. We're getting the spitty, attacky sound of the vocal out. We're really bringing it forward and we're really making it aggressive. So the attack is slowed down to sort of the middle here. That will allow a decent amount of that aggression through. And then you can set this release all the way to 7, so it's really fast. It's really, really hitting you in the face. I brought it back a little bit for this song because the tempo is a little slower, but hopefully you can hear just how much vibe this compressor brings. I'll start with it off and I'll bring it in.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. That need someone like me that you can't control.
Yeah, so when it's off, you almost hear the vocal calm down a bit, right? Like those quick words that have those S and C and T sounds in them, they really come forward in this, and this is how you make it rock. You could go with a harder ratio. I find that 4's okay because we've got the SSL channel compressing and we've also got the FG stress compressing. But you know, there's nothing wrong with going heavy on it. Depends on how aggressive and upfront you want the vocals to be. And then this is another de-esser. This is called the invisible de-esser. This is how I do sort of 2 de-essers working gently. And then into a bit of warm tape saturation here from Saturn 2. This is making sure it doesn't sound too digital and too bland and recorded in a bedroom. This is how you make it sound like it's got some analog magic to it. And it's just a touch because this saturation builds up really quickly. You know, in solo, you heard that these vocals already sound a little saturated, right? So I'm just sort of enhancing that a little bit. Know that it's okay to have that sound because with the whole mix, you can't tell. Don't go overboard, you know, like most things. Let's hear this.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. That need someone like me that you can control.
Cool, it just adds a little bit of grit, especially on those more long held out words. You listen to the end of that phrase, so damn long, you can hear how the saturation is affecting that vowel sound, the O sound, and it sounds nice.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long.
Yeah, it's cool. And then finishing it off with a limiter, not going too hard, but we want every word to be heard, the vocals in your face. This is a chorus as well, don't forget. So it's making sure this vocal doesn't disappear. So you shouldn't hear too much of a change, but I will turn the limiter off and on, just so you get an idea of how much limiting we're doing.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. That needs someone like me that you can control.
Yep, just stops bits from jumping out, keeps it in place. And if you've heard this song, or you've noticed with this video that there's a bit of screaming going on, let's walk through that quickly now. So we have Pro Q3, just dealing with harshness. This isn't dynamic or anything. This is just pulling out a little bit of build up here around that same sort of 6K area, because we're going to compress this hard. So we want to make sure that the compressor doesn't make the bad things worse. And then gain reduction, heavy vocals. If you want to really smash it and you really want some aggression, there's nothing like gain reduction. I think I read in the manual, it's got some ridiculous ratio going on here. Any noise that you might have not noticed in your recording will come out from this too. So you definitely want to cut around everything in case there's background noise, hiss, hum, bleed, anything like that. Listen to how heavy this is. So I'll play you one off and one on. Yeah, but that's cool, right? You want to go overboard on screams, don't you? Another Lin MB, doing the exact same thing. That'll give us some brightness and control those mids. And then into this channel strip here, some EQ and compression. So we're compressing it with an 8:1 ratio now, and we're hitting it a lot harder than we were the clean vocals. Tiny bit of top end 8K boost, then a bit of 3K for some grit, and then here we are, body. Sort of 1.5, just under 1.5K here, almost 5 decibels. Let's hear this off and on.
You tell me that
And engaged.
you tell me that I
Yeah, brighter, fits the mix and the overall aggression of the song. Keeps it in keeping with the clean vocals too. Another Pro Q3, so we're rolling off some low end here with the Pro Q3, dealing with a bit more of that mid build up and then a bit of harshness as well. Nothing too drastic, there's no cut here in this mid range, it's just a dynamic band, so we're controlling that frequency response like we were before. And then distortion, decapitator, 100% wet because this is an effect we want. Little bit of drive, but it's actually not that much. Let's hear this off and on. So this is bypassed. And this is with the distortion. I mean, distortion, it's saturation still, really. But this plugin's great for stuff like this. It sounds cool. And with these screams, we didn't just want one scream down the middle. You know, this is a chorus. So we've got some layers happening. We've got a couple of stereo doubles either side. Let's hear this. Yeah, and that's what makes that sound. Yeah, they're layered and they're spread out and they're pushed back a little bit because we still want the clean vocals in this kind of music or this song to shine through. And in keeping with those layers, we've got stereo doubles and harmonies, you know, mixed in the same way as the main vocals. So we've got clean vocals down the middle, stereo doubles hard pan left and right, stereo harmonies hard pan left or right. So that's 5 takes of clean vocals. And then we've got scream vocals down the middle, left and right take hard panned, left and right take hard panned of high screams too, and then some air, which are really high ones. So we've got 6 takes of screams, 5 takes of cleans, and that gives you this sound.
You tell me that I need you for so damn long. That need someone like me that you can get.
And if you want to grab these multi-tracks to mix yourself, you can buy them from my Shopify page or through YouTube Shopping. The link will be in the description. And you'll get all the tracks here for the vocals, all the guitars, bass, drums, everything I used here for your own use entirely. If you want to see how I mix the guitars to this song, then you can watch this video here or head over to my channel for all kinds of videos on mixing pop punk, emo, and similar kind of music to this. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one.